from the far side, what would a typical MSG payoff be in 1981, and how did that compare to Boston or Baltimore or DC before Vince Jr. took over? There's a new sentence. Before Vince Jr. took over, is that your best year in wrestling, monetary-wise?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I had good years before, but you don't have those. You don't have those kind of markets anywhere else. You have Boston, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington D.C., Pittsburgh. Not to mention New York and all those other. And you're doing aside from California back then, that was the original population belt through it, and even the small towns over there are big towns, the Trentons and all the the Hartford, the 20,000, 20,000 seat building, New Haven, 15,000, and they fill them up, weekly, without, so to think that once somebody came in and they were the reason for business is really, really stretching your ego, because you came from Antonio Rocca to Bruno Sammartino to Pedro to Backlund to Hulk to what Hulk did, business. What Hulk did and what Vince did is they took it from the local TV, your local marketing, which they had predominantly around the northwest, northeast corridor of the United States, and you went national. That's all. You went international in Canada, and then soon to follow Europe, Australia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the difference, kind of thing.
So with a payoff, and maybe you don't want to give the numbers, of course, a payoff in Madison Square Garden, what might that be on a typical main event compared to Washington or Baltimore or another major market in the Northeast?
They're all pretty much the same. We're all pretty much the same. Ran the same. Sell out about 25, $3,000. For the main. You gotta remember the cards were loaded. Even if it was me and Snuka in the cage, there was Backlund and somebody else for the world title, and you had the world tag team champions, and you probably had another secondary angle going. So you had 4 or 5 matches, in the Garden alone as feature matches. So he was able to spread that's how he was able to maintain the champion and everything else, maintain the draw. They said Backlund wasn't drawing or Backlund, that's, I don't have the figures and I don't have the numbers to support me, because I'm just saying, but you don't have to have the figures if you got those kind of towns. And then, to make sure that he's going to do business, he's going to give you a card. Patterson and Slaughter, Patera, Patterson, Pedro Morales, and Muraco. Something else. The tag team champions, and they got a feud going with Can-Am, Martel and Tito, or something like that. So that there's a handful of guys, and then Jake the Snake with somebody else, with his wife. Rick Rude or something. The cards are loaded, so you can't extra a type of exclusivity as far as payoff. But the payoffs were all good, and they would range pretty much the same, because all those towns were all in the same, pretty much in the same neighborhood as capacity, from 18 to 21,000. So it wouldn't vary too much, the amounts, and then maybe the Boston card wouldn't be as loaded as the Garden card. So everything kind of evened out.
Next question then from Jeremiah CH or Jeremiah. What was the difference in the main event payoff wrestling Hogan and Backlund in Madison Square Garden?
I don't think there was much. Probably about this. I don't know. If you hit Hogan right, you catch Hogan. I caught him on those Saturday Night Live things, and NBC would kick in an extra payoff, so you're actually getting 2 for 1. So it'd be a double. Be like the Garden payoff, top money in the Garden, 25, $3,000, and the NBC or the TV place would usually match that. So it was a good deal if you had to catch that. I caught it with Brody, and I caught it a couple other places. Bundy. Sorry, not Brody. Bundy at WrestleMania 2, and a couple other times I got the, main event on Saturday Night Main Event.